Hey, take two.
Good morning, good evening.
Oh, no, sorry. I didn't realise you were going to go.
Okay.
He was in full swing.
I know, look at his face, it's lit up.
Full go.
Okay,
Good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to episode 34 of BDAchat. They're back. The two that weren't here last week. Thank you for Paul. Thank you to Paul. Why can't I say Paul?
Paul, it's quite an easy word.
It is Paul. I think it's because I'm thinking of swimming tape.
And swimming pool.
No, I have to buy some pool tape for the swimming pool.
Pool tape?
Yeah, because
I've never even heard of...
Pool.
The swimming pool's got a hole in it, so I need to get some pool.
He's got a swimming pool.
Who
Someone's
doesn't have a
doing
swimming
well.
pool? You just pump it up.
Really well.
Anyway.
These motion guys, they get paid a lot of money.
You've got kids, man. They need a swimming pool. Anyway, last week we were talking about the art of the creative brief, and Paul, Cabe, and Kyle joined us, and that was great. So thanks for everyone that tuned in, and thanks to them for taking part. This week, back fresh from their holidays, we've got Paul and Camilla. Carl
And Camilla. You're now Carl.
Rob and Camilla.
It screws me up when
It's
he's
been
hot.
It's been hot.
It's hot in here.
It's hot. My brain
Yeah,
is
these
melting.
lights.
I think. Do you know what it is? I think it's because it's day 5. Is it day 5?
Do you know what day it is, Lee?
It's day 5. It's day 5 of my fast.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm
That's
fast.
screwing with your
What?
mind.
I'm fasting for 5 days. So
Is it innate of what? Is this a religious thing or is
no,
it
I'm trying to lose some fat around the body, so I'm fasting. So yeah,
Because they say that you normally get sharp after a period of time, but you go through that like headache.
Sharp. What do you mean by sharp?
like
turn on,
synapses firing? Zing, zing, zing.
But then you
No,
go through that
no.
rubbish phase at the beginning where you're really hungry, you can't focus, you can't remember people's names or days.
I'm really
No,
grumpy
well, no.
like the last
And grumpy
couple of
at
days.
work,
No,
maybe.
Yeah.
no.
Not smiling or saying hello.
No, I don't know. That's just me generally.
Okay.
But no, it is day 5. Yeah, day 5 fasting. It's good. I feel a lot better for it. To be fair, I really do.
What will you eat? Nothing.
You eat at 7 o'clock in the morning, then you don't eat anything until 7 o'clock at
Oh,
night.
okay, yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
12
Your body
hours.
gets used to it though after
12
a while.
hours. It does,
Gets
yeah.
used to
I
it.
just
At
don't
first
get
you're
really
hungry.
crabby.
I don't get it.
Oh, well done.
Anyway.
Good for you.
Sorry.
It's affecting your brain.
Well, yeah, probably. So, this week, unfortunately, David's not with us this week. He's off on holiday. This week, we're going to be talking about can you teach creativity? Sorry, that's taken us a long time to get to that. But anyway, can you teach creativity? So, I know how I feel about if you can teach creativity or not. How do you feel about if you can teach creativity or not?
I think that you can teach creativity, kind of. Sit on the fence or what?
I think you can teach creativity.
Kind of.
Kind of.
You can. You can teach people tools and different ways of thinking.
I suppose it depends on how you think about creativity,
for
don't it?
creativity by using tools, things like that.
Yeah.
But you can't necessarily turn it on someone straight away. There's things that they can use and tools that they can use to be more creative and think of things in a creative way. And they need to use their imagination and things like that, which you can't teach people how to use your imagination. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it does. I think you can teach creativity. I don't know how to put it into words, but I think people have is it a persuasion or what do you call it when you have you're born
tendency, like a
and you are born maybe with creativity, but at the same time I think it's something that can be learned. I think not learned through lectures. I think creativity is about the way you work cognitively, your cognitive processes, and the way you can actually not think in straight lines, but almost not think in a linear manner, totally non-linear, so you can able to kind of jump and piece things together. And I think there's processes, there's ways of doing it out there, and kind of approaches you can take that can really help you. So I think it can be taught, or it can be at least kind of what you're saying, enhanced through certain methods.
I think we can prime our minds for creative ideas in a really good environment as well, like a nurturing environment. Why are you laughing?
I'm not laughing. I'm just listening.
You're laughing.
I always
What
laugh.
do you think?
You can't teach creativity.
Yeah, I knew you'd say that. I knew you'd say that.
You can't.
Go on.
You
Go
can't.
on, let's
You
have
are
let's have
creative.
your
There's right. Okay. My wife, very creative with words. She could write anything, but she can't draw. She can't imaginally. Imaginally, that's the wrong word. She can't actually be creative in an imaginative way in terms of visual. The same with her mum. Her mum, like, oh
What do
God.
you mean? So
So
she just can't draw?
I think there are certain areas where you can be creative, and that's your kind of like that. That's your area of creativity. But
Okay.
to learn outside of that, I think is very hard.
Do you mean the physical?
Okay.
Do you mean like your wife can't draw and she's really crap at drawing?
So
It's like
Because that's not.
I think
That's
there's
a part of
I think
creativity,
there's a way.
but-
There's a way. It's like think certain people can just visualize a room and they can go, oh yeah, we could paint that wall there, we could do that, we could do that. That's, for me, that's being creative. Other people just can't do that.
I guess it's your definition of creativity.
Yeah, to be fair, like it's quite a wide, you know.
I think of it as in ideas. That's how I think, because as a strategist, that's what I automatically think of.
Yeah, but anyone can have an ideas
and visualising, I guess, a bit more.
Yeah.
What do you think of it as?
I see creativity as the thought process.
Well, it could be anything.
And the thinking.
It can be anything.
Yeah, and it's a tough one.
I know someone when I was at school, and they used to draw, and they weren't very good at drawing, because I remember them, and I remember thinking,
you're shit.
That looks cool.
I'm better than you.
Now they're amazing because they went off to college and they went off to university and they went off and they learnt it, and now they are so good. I really hope they are.
But
now they are so awesome. So they learned that.
Being good at drawing doesn't make you creative.
No. We're just saying.
No. That's what I'm saying though. Is say if you're good at drawing, I could sit here and I could do a life still of someone. That doesn't make me a creative person.
You're
I'm good at drawing.
You're really terrible at drawing.
Some of the times though, you just have to.
Thanks.
You have to let
getting personal
that
on the
creative process happen, and I think it is a process, and I think you have to be open to it and accept that you have to go and do research. A lot of research, I think, to be creative.
Yeah.
Because you have to come up with an idea. It's all very well come up with an idea about, let's say it's a video, or if it's for me, let's say it's a video. And then to give that idea any sort of, it's like a little seed. To grow it, you've got to go out there and research. You've got to go find out what you're trying to achieve.
Stimuli.
And then you start to believe in it more. You start to believe in your initial idea, and then it sort of grows and it takes you to different places. But I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this one, to be honest. Can you teach creativity?
So, do you know what? I think there's always this talk about why are we more creative as children, and why
before the age of 7.
Yeah,
apparently.
why are we more like absorbent and more creative and more imaginative? And there's the obvious things. It's like as you grow up, there's more rules and regulations. It's easier to learn non-creative behaviours than it is to learn creative behaviours, if that makes sense. It's easier for us to become less creative with age and time. And let's face it, the education system, is almost 200 years old. It was what we learn kind of now, even though the curriculum slightly changed, but the way we learn was kind of created 200 years ago in the Industrial Revolution, where we were taught to be great workers, very good at following orders, and get stuff done. And that's what the curriculum supports. The curriculum now, it isn't as creative. It doesn't support the creativity side of it. So I think once you go through school and exams and you're in your teenage years, you're slowly having those creative elements you learned as a child.
Teachings, I think, because my wife's a teacher, and I keep banging on about my wife, sorry, but they can get quite creative in the way that they actually try to teach, and that's where I find that she can be really creative in terms of ideas of breaking down ideas of how to teach things.
Kids. Or not. I think that's quite a powerful thing.
Yeah.
There's loads of TED Talks on how education can either squash creativity or enhance creativity from a younger age. Yeah. Because there's a lot of psychology behind that, and how before the age of 7 you're not looking at the outside world and you're not really taking it in. You're in your own imaginative bubble. So you play, all that stuff is all from your imagination, and you hit the 7 age and all of a sudden all the outside influences start to come in and you lose some of that, which is really sad.
Yeah, I think it's not what I was saying isn't kind of any sort of smear on the education system. It's just that learning English and science and the way it's taught, like almost some of the linear ways, don't kind of produce. You're just learning information, your memorization. That's what a lot of that is. And don't get me wrong, I look back when I was at school, there were some amazing lessons where actually teachers came in with a very different approach and made you think differently. And that's where creativity can be enhanced, when you start to think differently, when it starts to make your brain go off in ways that it's never done before. I think that's what, that's where I think it's a good example of creativity being pushed and being learned.
I think that's where you can teach creativity, in that you understand the process of what you're going through and that you will hit roadblocks and not to get disheartened.
I think that's a massive point there. I think for me, it's exploration, it's experimentation, and one of the biggest stiflers of creativity is the fear in adults of being wrong, failure, being wrong, making a fool of myself. And do you know what? We've all sat in meetings, I'm sure we have, where you've had an idea, but you're not quite.
Well, it hasn't got enough bones on it. It hasn't got enough of a substance to it to put it forward.
Yeah,
But
so you
it's
hold
just
it
something that
back.
just pops out and you think,
Yeah, but you should say it. We try and do that here. You always say, even if it's a rubbish idea, say it anyway. And you'll stick it in the fridge or whatever we call it. And then you might be able to build on that idea, or someone else might be able to come up with something that builds on that idea. And then it becomes quite a good idea in the end, instead of something that people are quite embarrassed by. I think you need to get rid of the embarrassment.
I think that's it.
7-year-old kids aren't embarrassed.
Yeah.
They'll just say what they think, and there it goes, and
So-
out it comes. I don't think one should be embarrassed by
Yeah,
stuff.
and I think that's a really good point, because in IBM, back in 1956, someone who was head of IBM then, I think his name's like Louis Mobley, not the guy from the Jungle
That's
Book.
quite an awesome name.
Louis Mobley.
Louis Mobley. In 1956, he went, I want our IBM executives not to know about finances and business. I want them to be creative. And basically, what they did, they created a program where it actually threw all the executives outside their comfort zone and almost taught them to accept that sometimes they can be made fools of, and they're not always right. And they really they called it the mind-blowing experiment, where they just literally threw them into the most uncomfortable situations to bring down that level of fear of being wrong. And yeah, IBM did that back in the 50s, and we're doing that with their
That's pretty good for
executives
the
to go,
50s.
there you go, once we've broken down those barriers, creativity kind of isn't constrained.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really cool. And that was, this guy was forward thinking. This is when IBM were very suits and, straight down the line.
Yeah.
And then obviously IBM now are, they've always been huge, but they're the biggest innovators on the planet, one of them. So I just thought that was really interesting. It kind of builds on what you're saying, that fear of being wrong, and we've got to kind of get beyond that. Because that just stifles creativity. You've got to be able to shoot the shit and see what directions it goes in.
Yeah.
There's always time to analyse further down the line. I think you're gonna say-
I've got some.
thought he was gonna fly.
I've got, how we always do like top tip things. I have some because it feeds into.
Camilla's top
I
tips.
have some. It's good to do that, right?
Yeah, I want to hear them.
It's helpful. I have written some of them down.
I've
First
written
one.
some down.
Okay. Rest and play. There you go.
Sounds like a
Who wants
Mars
to
bar?
I didn't even
Mars
know
bar.
what it said, but rest and play. Mars bar. But this is about how there was this guy, that Sagbmaster chap from that agency in New York, who takes 1 in every 7 years off. Sabbatical. He goes away for a whole year. And he goes to Bali
I'm due one.
or Thailand, or I'm due one too.
I'm due one.
And he goes away and he switches off from work, and it's all about how they say your creativity is increased when you're resting.
Yeah,
It
I
expands
totally
when
agree
you're
with that.
resting. When you're having those quieter, like in the shower, those quieter moments, that's when your ideas come. So 1 in 7 years, he has a sabbatical. He's got a whole TED talk about it.
That's what happens to Lee.
Please listen to it because it's really, really good. I love that TED talk by Steven Segmeister.
yeah.
I always say Stefan or Steven, but that's brilliant. And I think, time off helps creativity to bloom, they say. For those who can't do that, like do something new. I sometimes find that if I do something new, and that's out of work, so if you learn something new or go to, I don't know, a new kind of class, or that can really help as well. Because if you're stuck in the same stuff day in, day out, it's really hard to think of new stuff and to be creative. I think sometimes you need to take yourself out and do I started yoga on a Mondays now, and I really like it because I haven't done it before. It's down the road. I'm really enjoying it, and it's just rest time, and it's just something new and something different that I don't get so bored. But we're doing the same monotonous kind of routine of working hard, getting home, so that's good. So that's another one I'd say.
Yeah.
The other one to think about was ideas on mass. So just think of loads of ideas, like shoot the hoop, as you said
There's
before.
always plenty of time
Just think mass
to analyse
of
it.
ideas, even if they're a bit crappy. I think
the
that's
beginning.
sometimes quite a good thing. Or even like they call it toppling. So word associations. You do this a lot in your brainstorm. So if you look at motorsport, what else do you think of in motorsport? You might think of brakes. You might think of the straight. You might think
Rubber,
of pit stop.
skid
You might think
marks.
of. So that's what I mean by tools, I guess. It's not making you draw better. It's not making you, but it's making you think differently than you would do normally.
Yeah.
And then what would XX do? So what would Madonna do? What would Elon Musk do? That's one that Paul uses quite a lot.
I quite like
It's
that
a
one.
different way of
It's-
putting yourself into
yeah,
different shoes and
it's-
thinking differently.
You set yourself a question, then you put yourself into a character's role.
Yeah.
So someone famous, and obviously they've all got different.
So
and you
if-
pretend to think about how they would approach that.
If you're selling a mobile phone, new mobile phone, how would Madonna sell it? How would Elon Musk sell it? How would Richard Branson sell it? What tactics would he do? So it's just another way of thinking differently about stuff.
How would Madonna sell a mobile phone?
She would. No, I'm not saying anything.
She would take off her boob cones, and there'd be the mobile phone strapped to her underneath.
Two
Yeah.
mobile phones.
And it would just go viral.
I think she's kind of moved on from boob cones, but
I'm not so sure if she has.
She may actually. Do you reckon she still gets them out every now and again? The boob codes.
Well, at home. Just by herself.
Oh, I remember the good old days.
Vogue.
Strike a pose. Yeah. They're brilliant. They're brilliant, Camilla.
Yeah, and draw. That was another one. Even if you're really crap at drawing, just a bad doodle. Like,
Doodles.
draw your ideas.
I love a doodle.
I
Draw
think
your ideas.
I think if you're a bad doodler, that's great. To be
Sometimes
fair,
it's good.
half
Sometimes
the time,
people are bad drawers.
I'm a
just
bad
bad-
drawer and I'm a best person.
bad doodling's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just.
But it can sometimes help you think differently about your problem if you draw it.
Yeah.
Like put a different perception on it, I guess. If you draw your
it does.
thing, and then you'll be like, oh, okay, I didn't think of it like this.
Again, there's science behind that because it uses different parts of the brain. Rather than just sat there going, I've got to think of ideas, I've got to think of
Yeah, it gives
ideas,
you a
I
new
need to come up with
perspective.
something new, but actually firing synapses in one side of your brain or somewhere in the brain, I'm not no neuroscientist, but it then stimulates other areas. And then that's when, like you've said to me before, your best ideas come to you when you're in a shower. The shower.
Yeah,
I think it's all about perspective,
or
isn't it?
when you
Different.
just cut off
Just cut off.
and you're
Just-
doing something
just
else.
Yeah, when you're on holiday, like even having this break last week, you just feel more natural about it, feel more relaxed. And that's,
Yeah.
I think that's when ideas come to you a little bit more. When you've got all the clutter outside your head. And then the last one, so 4 was just select the good ideas. So out of all that stuff you've got, select your good ones and
Yeah.
work on them. Like Lee said before, don't just leave them there. Continue to work on them because they can become really
Evolve them.
good. Yeah.
You
Bounce them around.
Yeah, they make it better. You can always improve on ideas. And sometimes I find we did this idea brainstorm thing for that hotel group a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
And there was one idea that we were like, oh, I really love that idea. And I revisited it a week later and I was like, it's not as good as I thought
Yeah.
it was the first time I looked at
Yeah.
it.
Massive tip.
And then you change it again and you're like, oh, okay, that's got legs. I quite like that now. And then you sit on that and then you're like, it still needs tweaking. And
Yeah.
I found that quite a lot. And that's always quite helpful to go back and just give it a bit of time to breathe.
That's it. Let ideas breathe.
Yeah.
I love that
You
saying
hear that
because
and
it's
people
true.
are like, no, but I think it does. It is actually true.
Yeah, because I know in meetings I've sat there and I've pinged out ideas, and at the time I think this is amazing. We should go with this. Then you revisit it, and once
And
you
you're like,
and you
it
look back,
doesn't
and
quite work,
actually it
or-
doesn't work. And actually we could play it like this or that idea. Yeah, I love just letting things breathe. Come out with lots of ideas, great, but then give yourself time to come back.
Like
Yeah.
that the Disney room guy, Walt Disney had the Disney rooms.
The
didn't
DeWalt?
he? DeWalt Disney.
No comment.
Yeah, loves it. Disney rooms, and I think it was the Dreamer.
Dreamers.
So that's like your fantasy ideas, like everything put in.
Oh yeah, I
Your
remember reading this. I
realist,
remember reading this.
Which is like, okay, look at those dream ideas. Would they work? Would they? And then
Yeah.
your spoiler where you like shoot them down.
The bastard room.
And the ones that stick are generally the really good ideas. That's what
Yeah.
Walt Disney believed anyway. The ones that stick after those 3 rooms are like the good ones.
Is that in that Pixar book?
Yes,
I think it is, yeah.
I think it is.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
good book that.
Good. You've read the Pixar book.
I haven't read
Is
the
there
Pixar book.
good tips in there for creativity? I'm not saying remember them now, but is it a good book if you're
One of the ones
looking to be a bit inspired?
One of the ones they used to have is when they. I don't know if they still do it. I think they probably do. They moved into a new offices when Pixar, and they had this boardroom table, and the boardroom table had names on it, so where they could all sit around and all have ideas. And it wasn't that they'd put the names in; their names were already there. And the guys that were setting up for the meeting just went in and goes, "Oh look, we'll just replace the paper, and change the name, that sort of thing." And I don't know if probably when Lasseter was there. Anyway, they came in and they were like, they kept having all these meetings and everyone sat in their particular chairs. And, things just didn't move forward enough. Things, they were stuff like that. So what they did is they just basically took all these name badges off and just threw them away and just basically said, look, everyone can just sit wherever you want around the table. There's no sit where you like.
Yeah.
Which sounds a bit stupid, really, because everyone would just sit where you like in theory, wouldn't you? But
No.
that's one of it. And they do have... any idea is a
Different
good idea, and
perspective, isn't it? Again, isn't it? Just sitting somewhere else in a room makes it feel a bit different.
I generally think the way sometimes that you can work at trying to come up with an idea is probably the worst way. It's like
What do you mean?
it's
Get in a room and think of the idea
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so hard.
get in a room.
Ideas time.
It's,
Like
it's,
a
it's kind of
factory.
like saying, "Here's a piece of paper, write a book."
Yeah.
You wouldn't do that.
No.
You wouldn't. So you want to try and what can we do? And I always think if you're dependent on the subject matter you're trying to make an idea or be creative in, maybe you need to. I think sometimes do more research about that before you try to come up with the idea, and then maybe I don't know, like if you're trying to come up with a video about paragliding, I don't know, it just popped in there.
Hmm?
Just go do some
That'd
paragliding.
be awesome.
Or just figure
Yeah.
or just.
Awesome,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you know what I saw? I think it was funny.
That's so true, actually, isn't
And
it?
in actual fact, the past can be. I saw. What was I watching? Then we were doing some research for some client, and we were going through some videos, and one of there was about car dealerships and stuff, and we found loads of old videos. Well, it started as a journey. We found loads of regional ads that were done in America by these local dealerships. Come down to Florida, you know, it's typical. It was a bit like that, but it's
Like
so
Texan.
it's so bad. It's funny, and so it's so bad that it's kind of this is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And that got me looking into old videos, and like the old VHS stuff. So like
Yeah.
and
Love a VHS.
so you looked at all the old, and there was one video. Most of it was rubbish, and you can't see what was going on. Like, do you remember those adverts for the games like Connect 4 when you was a kid? They used to have the adverts. So it's stuff like that. And they found one of these ads was so retro, it was current. Because it was just,
Yeah.
if you cleaned it up, you could have sold that to me as the opening of Spider-Man.
Really?
Yeah, because it was just so retro-y. It's like, and you think, well, is this where they've taken some of their inspiration from?
Can we find this ad and share it?
Yeah, well,
Either on our website or with the
I'll have to-
podcast show
I'll have to dig
notes.
out. There's loads. Oh,
'Cause
the
there's stuff like
cast
that, I think
I'd like to
it's
see
quite
that.
intriguing.
The
You've got me
cast stuff.
intrigued. I'd like to see it. I'm
Well,
sure
plus
people listening would.
another way, if you work if you work in video, I always find if you're trying to be creative in video, start with the music first. That's sort of basis of an idea, and that tells the pace and all that sort of stuff, and the emotion you're trying to tell. But there's also like we were cutting this video together for IFS, just this sort of demo, and we had like the music track had for some strange reason the reference footage I'd found had this chap playing a piano and some chap playing a violin or whatever. And the music I found had a little bit of piano in it, and it was weird how I married the two together. I didn't mean to do it,
Yeah, subconsciously you did it.
but then I thought, well, I'll start dropping these shots in of this, and for all you know, it brought it together.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like sometimes you just have to go, and we showed it to the client today, and they loved it.
That's
So
See?
and it was just great
Nice.
to just. But at the time, I was like, they're never going to go for this. Got
No.
Yeah, but they did.
piano, violin.
Favorite movie soundtrack on that note?
Oh God. What, for me or just anyone?
Yeah, just anyone.
I'm thinking, that's why I'm staring at
Oh.
you.
I would. I think if it has
Mine's
to be
really
it
geeky.
has to be a track. I'd say it's probably Jurassic Park, just because Jurassic Park is just that's la, la, la. But then I love so many Mad Max, Hans Zimmer. They're all brilliant.
I
Hans
really like the King's
Got the
Speech.
keys from my bimmer.
I think
Really
yeah,
classical, it's really
but
classical,
yeah,
and
but
I
that was
listen
good.
to it. That
Yeah.
soundtrack when I'm thinking of
Well,
stuff.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think there's a couple of Beethoven ones
Yeah,
in
there
there.
is, and it's just it's really nice to listen to when you're thinking of ideas and
Yeah.
stuff.
Classic. I must admit, if you listen to music, is a good idea to
Yeah.
just but listen to stuff that you don't like. You got if anything's too overpowering, it overpowers your creativity.
Yeah,
like
can't
You
death
can't
metal.
think. Yeah. So
Yeah,
you
you
need
can't
something
think.
that's in the background that just sort of like nudges you along and doesn't let you get too sort of like dispirited and
Yeah.
not actually staring at a white bit of paper or a white wall
Yeah.
or standing there with the marker. Right. So who's got no idea?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Which
horrid.
is just it's bad. Isn't
Yeah.
it?
Ludovico and Aldi.
Sugar, donuts.
Good to
We're
listen
going to touch on donuts again. It's
I
probably
love
Bit of
donuts.
sugar.
bit of sugar. Always
Yeah.
have a donut for you.
Not too much sugar, just a bit.
I mean,
A drink of wine, a beer.
yeah,
Not in
just
work
saying.
time.
anything.
No, but it works though, doesn't it? How many times have you
Yeah.
been down a pub and you've come up with the idea, and then you
I tell you what,
knock
there
some
was
ideas
Yeah.
together. It's always a bit easier.
There was another
Loosens you
video
up a bit.
that I saw recently. You might have seen this one. I don't know whoever came up with this idea. So, if you go to View Cinemas, everyone plays the video of please turn off your mobile phone.
Yeah.
Blah 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 blah. And so View have taken it completely differently. And normally they're pretty. View all View do is you get this, and we found out the other day that it's Mark Strong. So Mark, do you know who Mark Strong is?
No.
You've seen Kingsman?
Yes.
He's that dude. The guy.
Oh, he's
that,
the lead
not
guy.
the lead guy. The guy that does all the sort of behind the scenes.
Oh, Colin
security.
Firth.
No, not that guy. The other guy.
Okay.
He's bald.
Yes. He plays a bad guy.
No.
Brothers Grimm.
No. Oh.
Grimsby. He's
Anyway.
English.
He's English. Mark
That
Strong.
doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think I know
Let's
him.
get on with it.
Anyway, so what they do for View is rather than actually you're sitting there watching all these trailers, the next thing you know, the screen just goes completely black. There's nothing on it,
Mm.
and then Mark Strong just comes up and he just goes, "Hello," and it's a bit creepy
I
at
think
first.
I've seen that.
I have seen
May-
it. We have
may-
seen
you have
It's
seen-
creepy.
interview.
It's
And then
creepy.
he literally just talks to you,
Mm. Got your attention, haven't
and he's
I?
got your attention. Yeah. So you have seen it.
Oh.
I've
And
been watching
I
you.
think that. Can you imagine going into like a brief and go, right? So here's our idea. So what's it going to look like? Nothing. Just be black.
Yeah, we just want people to turn their mobiles off.
You just got to
You
listen.
don't need to make it
Just, yeah.
fancy.
You don't need to make it fancy. Just listen to. I just think it's
the power.
your power of trying to sometimes assault both senses. Just go for the one. I mean,
Simple is always, and go with your gut feeling as well. Like simple is always sometimes the best.
oh yeah,
You come up with that idea.
I wish
and
there
you're
was a
like, "That's
simplicity.
So simple, and you're like, yeah.
I think we should have a simplicity buzzer. Every idea we have, you need to hit the simplicity button. 'Cause
Yeah.
I think you can just
And you
trim
buzz it, and
away.
everyone goes, okay, how do we make it?
How
Distill
do we
it
make it
down.
simple?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like
And
that.
that's another good creative process is the distillation, like distilling it down to its simplest form.
Well, then that's we give it time, don't you? If you give it time to come
Give it
away from
time.
it,
Say
Let
that's
it
the important
breathe.
thing.
you just let it breathe, like a bottle of wine open up.
Oh yeah,
Nice.
just let it breathe. I've got just a tip. I think we talk about can it be taught? I think you can't just learn to be creative. You have to actually become creative, and that's just about immersion and openness. Be open to different things. Immerse yourself in creative surroundings with creative people. I think there's something to be said.
Do it with
One
different
of the best
surroundings
things
as
of
well, mix it
working for, I came from working very much on my own for many years, and the best thing of working here at BDA for me was surrounding myself with people who were very creative, very intelligent, who thought in different ways to myself, who had different views and opinions. And I think that's helped me be more creative.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing. If you have the opportunity, even if you're shadowing someone, have the opportunity just to immerse yourself in their creativity and just see the way they think
It's
and
different
do things.
perspective. It's what it all
Different
boils down
perspective.
to.
I think I took this from the wrong point of view at the top of the shop. I think, for me, I don't think there's one thing I don't think you can teach, and that's the eye of design. I don't think you can teach that.
Not
I
even Mr. Miyagi could teach
I
that.
think you've either got that or you ain't. I don't think there's some people just.
Apart from my friend who was rubbish and no good.
Well, I don't know. No, that's drawing though. That's
Yeah.
different.
Okay.
I'm
But
talking about
yeah.
there's like lining things up and just seeing how a design comes together. That
The
stuff
visualization of things.
that you can't. I don't know. Maybe you can
I
teach
agree
it.
with that. I think that sort of visualization.
It's what they
element
call the
of-
eye, isn't it?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, you can't
It's
teach
the
the
eye.
eye.
You can
can't
make
teach
slight
that.
improvements, but you
You
couldn't
can- yeah,
teach
you can
someone
get
to be
there.
rubbish at it to be really good. I don't
But,
think.
yeah.
If you've got someone who hasn't got the eye, I don't think you can make them be that person that sees everything neatly, sees everything how it should be, and what fits together nicely. If someone's quite scrappy
yeah.
and they can't visualize that, I think it's really hard to turn that person into someone who goes, move this, tweak this, there you go, perfect.
Well, it's just like I can't speak today. But
Fasting.
it is, yeah. But I remember when we learned it at uni, and it was just like how to be dynamic brushstrokes versus static, and being aware of negative space and just going, yeah, that's fine. Don't put anything there. It's
Yeah.
all right.
You don't need to fill
you
that
don't
space.
need to fill that
Yeah,
space.
white space.
Don't make your logo so big. You don't need to. Keep
Oh.
it small. Or don't keep.
That-
But it's that
My biggest
relation
pet
of
hate.
What?
massive logo.
We need our logo bigger.
Who says who, ever?
Everyone on every website, nearly every website I've ever
Really?
worked on. Can
Even
you just
ours.
make the logo a bit
Even
bigger?
ours, I swear someone said that to us on ours.
Yeah,
'Cause
you need to make your logo a
Can we
bit
make the
bigger.
logo a bit smaller? It's just-
The logo is the least important thing on our website, on most people's websites. People don't go there for your logo.
Of course they don't.
Yeah,
No,
They-
we have to fair. Yeah, we've
so
got it ourselves.
lose that, but that's going off piece. That's another debate.
You look quite angry about that.
What about logos?
Jesus Christ.
Or angry? Is that angry?
Angry about make my logo bigger.
Lovely stuff.
Your face is scary.
Okay.
So let's consult the board. Have we covered everything on the board? I can't
I
see
think
the board.
so. I think
And
the writing's too small on it. I can't see either.
my last tip is we covered it.
Where are your podcast glasses, by the way?
I took them off the glary. Don't be afraid to be wrong. You have permission to be wrong.
On that note.
Goodbye.
No,
Just a quick reach out. Thank you very much. Well, I got contacted by an Alex Lawrence, who watches the podcast, and just wanted to get in touch. So we got together. We talked shop,
Nice.
all about video projects. It was nice. Thank you, Alex. It was a great catch up, and good to speak to other people in the industry. So you guys, we're getting out there.
Well, you
People
seem to
treat
get
you-
stopped a lot in public, doesn't he? He comes out of shoe shops, Malcolm Hudson shoes.
so distinctive
and they're-
looking though,
and they're
doesn't
like,
he?
"Oh, you're the podcast guy. You're the prince,
No, that doesn't.
The Prince now. You shortened that.
the prince."
Doesn't happen. Anyway,
Oh, that's good. Alex,
yeah, it was
Thank
lovely.
you.
It was nice. It was a nice time.
who's her favourite?
Although, unfortunately, the only thing that so basically, I met Alex, and so we had a coffee. It was
I
great.
don't reckon Alex is real.
No, Alex is real. I'll show him later. Anyway, Alex looks like a cross between Guy Ritchie and that guy Stephen. The guy that was in
Stephen
the office.
Merchant.
Steve Merchant.
No, he wasn't in the office.
Who's the guy that was the tall guy that was in?
Oh, yeah, I don't know his name. No one knows his name.
Ah.
He was in
The
Pirates
one
of the
that's in
Caribbean.
Logan. Yeah.
Bold guy and Logan,
Yeah,
isn't he?
what's his name?
I don't know. We'll have to.
Anyway,
Yeah, so he looks like a cross.
So it looks like between across them. So anyway, I had a cup of coffee and a chat about video and all sorts of stuff. And I said, time to go. About an hour later. So I got up and goes, yeah. And of course, his name's Alex. But I goes, yeah, nice chat to you, guy. See you later. I was just like,
Because he looked like Guy Ritchie.
he looked, well, yeah. I suppose I went the better way rather than the other.
Rather than.
Rather than the other.
Well,
Like,
you
it
just
was.
leave it and run off
Yeah, I just got.
and left.
Just walked off.
You didn't go, oh, sorry. You just
Well, no,
left.
because we were separate. We were going away like that anyway. So it was kind of like I would have made.
He must
and
have
then
thought, what a knob.
He
after
probably
that.
did.
He went, after an
So-
hour of having
he
tea
probably
with
did.
him.
So I
Apologise now.
apologise for calling you Guy, Alex. Anyway,
I hope he isn't watching.
well, I don't know.
Send it to
I'll send him a text. Anyway, I got a text. Anyway, on that note, thank
Yeah.
you
Thanks.
for being part of episode 34.
I enjoyed it.
Okay,
Thanks
thank
for
you.
hosting me.
Please, thank you. I think.
Kept his flip flops on.
Okay, for some. Please reach out to us on our social media channels. I almost said that right. Thinkbda on Instagram and LinkedIn. And on that note, I think it is we're done.
Reach out to us.
Until next week, until episode 35. This is episode 34. Signing off. Bye.
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 Bye.